Hi everyone, GreenPanda here and welcome back to another video. So let's talk about the works and do the art supplies actually work? If you live in the UK, you would know all about the works, full of books by James Patterson. Just walking at any store and you will see that James writes a lot of books. I mean, a lot of books. Like, what the frick? I struggle to write fanfiction on a good day, and here's this guy banging one out every Tuesday. But ignoring all of the kids' crafts, books, and literature, we find ourselves at the art section, right next to stationery. So we're going to be talking about acrylic paint. I have the paint, the gesso, and the canvas to create an illustrative piece made entirely from work supplies.
Not sponsored.
First off, there is two brands of paint, Crawford and Black and Boldmere. I use both. Most paints come or can be bought separately. The Boldmere I have is the individual paints, while my Crawford and Black is the paint sets. Now, the question is, which one's better? I am biased since I don't like acrylic paint. I hate it. It's not my cup of tea. But when I bought the set back in 2018 and used them as soon as possible, they were vibrant and blended really good. Fresh acrylic paint in Crawford and Black is cheap and a great starter set to test the waters to see if acrylic is for you, and a medium you want to grow and invest your money into, but they don't last long. If you bought these paints years ago and then use them again, they are chalky and don't last long or blend as well, so if you buy them, you have to use them as soon as possible. A year is the best bet. Any longer, they're useless. And which is better? Boldmere, Crawford and Black? Which one? I don't know. Well, I can't say I'm not a fan of acrylic, but if I use an example of Watercolours and sketchbooks by the same brand, then I recommend Boldmere. If it's a sketchbook, then it can handle just about anything. It can handle watercolours, markers of the same brand from the works. It pretty much can handle anything. Well, Crawford and Black, the paper is an off-grey colour and the paper is like tissue, so I personally lean more towards Boldmere, sketchbook-wise. I'm not speaking as a professional on acrylic, but this is to the people who are thinking of trying acrylic paint or they're thinking of cheap alternatives. Or if you're American or any other part of the country and you're visiting the UK and you see a works shop, go to the works and buy Boldmere paint. You will not be disappointed. The works and Boldmere is the direction I would point for those first starters in case you're a beginner and you're not sure whether acrylic is for you, or you're holding back from spending money on expensive paint and then realising acrylic paint is not your thing. So onto the painting. I bought some sky blue paint from Boldmere and thought, what is blue that I can paint? And immediately thought of Jinx from the new Netflix series Arcane. Guys, it is so good and beautifully written. I can't just watch it and it's, I can't. Just watch it please. It's amazing, it's awesome, and it's great to finally like Jinx unironically. So I used gesso on my canvas. You're supposed to use 48 coats, but I used one because ain't nobody got time for that. And plus I was streaming, so I didn't want a video on where people were just watching paint dry. So acrylic did not work out on this canvas, on this piece. But that's on my lack of skill more than the products some are made using the works is to be desired. But most people online have been using these same products and they have created some really good professional stuff. I can't believe it was made from the works. Because I have a hate relationship with acrylic, most of my paints were in the trash. So I only had 5 tubes that survived my minimalist art splurge when I kind of cleaned my room and decided to get rid of some things. And yeah, it was Crawford and Black was part of the full set. So my brown paint disappeared and I didn't realise until I started painting that I was like, I don't have any brown. Fuck. So because I'm not a professional acrylic painter, watercolour is more my thing. You're gonna have to take everything I say with a grain of salt. So yeah. What I realised is that acrylic, if you have mediums is what you add to acrylic to make them better. And Super Rare Dizzle had a video where you add something to acrylic to make it look like professional paint. I can't remember the video, but if you get the works paint, you could probably experiment and you can get cheap paint, add this thing to it, and then boom, awesome expensive paint without actually wasting too much money. I don't have such mediums and so I wouldn't know, but that's because I'm not fond of acrylic, so why would I buy mediums for acrylic paint that I'll probably use never. Even in this paint I'll start with acrylic, then salvaged it with gouache because I didn't like the final. But that's on me, again, not on the paint and supplies itself. I've noticed this from watching artists online and even discussing with co-workers from work that some people who like acrylic don't like watercolor, and people who like watercolor, like myself, don't like acrylic. It's just one of those things. I'm a watercolor kid. It's funny because when I was making this portrait, my brain was trying to understand and go, why is it so dry? Like, shouldn't it feel more wet and glide across the canvas? Like, no, acrylic is too different than gouache and watercolor. I just don't, my brain can't wrap around the properties and how to use acrylic properly. So if you're someone who actually has some understanding, you will do a much better job than moi. Okay, so onto the actual painting itself. My main issues were that the colour wouldn't stick to certain parts of the canvas. There were some white parts that wouldn't get filled, and the more I added paint, the brush would separate and end up spreading out the paint, and it will paint over an area that I did not want to paint. Meanwhile, the white spot wouldn't be touched. It was like I was going over with a dry brush and nothing was happening, no matter how much I went over it, so it remains white. I think that's mostly because I didn't get gesso on the canvas properly, but I know that I used acrylic on separate occasions. Bolomea's acrylic pad, the actual paper itself, that's amazing. I created other works of art so you guys wouldn't think, just from this example, it doesn't look that great. So using Bolomea's acrylic paper, I drew Black Lady from Sailor Moon, and from the look alone, it looks great. I also created some other art pieces in my Ryman sketchbook, and like the overall look of the acrylic paint, I thought, hey, if I dilute the paint with water and use it as a watercolor, then my art will look better. Turns out if you use water, the acrylic paint is structured to be tight. Using water kind of breaks that apart and ends up cracking after a while. A YouTuber by Michelle, she did a video called The Worst Acrylic Paint Mistakes Anyone Can Make, and she actually goes in depth and tells you exactly what happens if you use too much water and use that as a base, and it ends up not being a good way to dilute your acrylic. I wouldn't know this because I'm not an acrylic painter. Why am I telling you to watch some other people's videos instead of telling you myself? Well, I don't think I have the authority to tell you guys how to use acrylic when I myself can't stand this stuff, or I have no idea what I'm talking about myself, and would end up creating a lot of misconceptions of acrylic, and I don't want to accidentally veer people off who might want to give it a go. I am in no way a pro, but what I can say is that for someone myself who has a strong dislike of acrylic, doesn't know how to use it, and still can create these type of artworks. So imagine someone who actually does like acrylic and wants to give it a shot. You can do much better than me. For professionals who already know how, may not be interested or might not know how to use these paints or mediums, I'm simply speaking as if these paints were a starter Pokemon. I'm only pointing in the right direction and going, here is a Charmander who is your acrylic starter Pokemon, and here's Squirtle as your watercolor pack, and here's Bulbasaur for oil paints, etc, etc. So if you're thinking of using acrylic as a try but worried about buying expensive paint and wondering why am I using it wrong, I don't like it, I think I've just wasted money. Everyone's been there. And I have been there. I've been in that situation where I spent money on stuff and realised I've just wasted my time and my money, and these paints are now wasted, and I feel guilty because of the whole environment and everything, and I spiral, and it's not a good thing. So yeah, I recommend to try the works, a great cheap alternative for first starters. And for other art supplies for Christmas coming up, watercolour is Better by Bolmere. CMYK pens are a must. I constantly use them and think they're amazing. They're pretty cheap. Try to buy the buckets that have all of the colours instead of buying individual pens that's only one colour. It's like trying to buy a bucket that's just all green, a bucket that's all blue. Try to get one that has all the individual colours in it, at least that way you're not spending as much money, because I bought all the buckets individually and then I ended up spending like £50 instead of a tenner. So yeah, just buy that one individual bucket, not all of them. Okay, so by using acrylic as a base along with gouache and some Posca pens for the graffiti in the background, I present Jinx. The painting in the back is another painting I made back in 2018 when I started traditional painting for the first time. I will make a video about traditional painting and make a video on what I wish I was told when I first made the transition from digital to traditional. But yeah, that's a whole separate video and I will be going into detail on that. But until then, thanks for watching this video and watch me paint, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye!